My name is Chuck Sorrells. I went in the military Air Force in 1954, retired in 1974. As a tech sergeant, most of the time I was an air traffic controller. I've been at Edwards Air Force Base in California. I've been in Japan, Thailand, Alaska, several bases in the States. This event happened in October the 7th of 1965. Today is the year 2000, so it's 35 years ago. It was on a midnight shift. I was the air traffic controller on duty in the tower. At about 1:30 or so in the morning, I noticed this real bright light to the east of my field, and it was kind of a light green, I would describe it, and it had a red light underneath it. And the red light, it wasn't actually a flashing light, it's kind of, I'd say, pulsating type, probably be a better description of it. Red underneath, and it had a white like light on top that just glowed, and it was very bright and it's quite large. So I observed it for quite a while because there wasn't any aircraft in the air at the time, and so I called the dispatcher down to base operations and the weather man that was on duty that night, the forecaster, and got them all to go outside and take a look. And yeah, what is that? You know, and I had the one of the detachment guys from the interceptor detachment that was on the base there. Had the captain down there, got him awake and got him to go out and look at it. And yeah, what is that? You know, and so we talked about it for a while. And RAPCON people, that's radar people that on the base, they didn't have any aircraft in the area at the time, and so we called it down to the air defense people at Los Angeles Air Defense Sector, and the director down there decided he got to call around these sites, and at one point in time they had at least 4 different radar sites that were getting radar returns on these things. They were getting seen at a couple other towers, like George Tower, it's over at Victorville, and I don't remember now, a couple other places there that were seeing them. So there was several people on the ground looking at these things, and about 4 radar sites. So this goes back and forth for I don't know, 2-3 hours, and they finally decided to scramble an aircraft on it to go up and take a look at it. And this was coordinated with the other higher headquarters, and I think NORAD was involved and everybody. So anyway, we got into the scramble this aircraft off, and he goes up to take a look at it, and they tried to run him intercept on these targets. And at the very beginning, I had one, the big large light. At some time later, it was just sitting there, mostly stationary. But it was too close to the horizon to be a star or anything like that. It was down below the mountain, the hills and stuff, so it wasn't a star. So couldn't correlate for what it possibly could be. And then all of a sudden, there's like 3 more objects, and they had similar characteristics as far as the lighting is concerned, but these 3 stayed like together. They stayed like I don't know if they were formation or what it was, but anyway, these 3 stayed together, and then they stayed there for a little bit, and then they moved down to the south of me and sat there stationary a while. And then a little bit later on, there's 3 more appears, but these 3 are individual ones. They would fly individually around and go north, south, east, west, and all kinds of things. And so at this point, I had like 7 of them at one time. And so this is when they decided to do the scramble business. It was getting on way up in the early morning hours by that time. And they got the aircraft up, and they tried to run an intercept on him, and he was having no luck. And so they kept asking me in the tower where was this object in relation to the airplane. And the only thing I could do was line him up with my runway, where I knew what heading he was on for sure in relation to where I was. And then as soon as he get to the end of the runway, I'd tell him to turn to a certain heading and head straight for it. Well, about 3 different times that night, he was able to, he'd say contact. And that contact means he had contact with something on his radar in the cockpit of the aircraft. And what it was, we don't know to this day. One point in time, he was up to 40,000 feet. And when he went near the object just rose real fast, real sudden, and quick and fast. And he just went under it. And there's a place on the tape where the director says, "How's he looking, Tower?" And I said, "He's low." And he said, "Well, he's at 40,000 feet." And I said, "I don't care, he's still low." And that thing just went way high. And they searched on their radar, their height finders and everything for it. And I highly suspect it was above their radars at that point. So,
how high would that be?
Probably 100,000 feet or something like that. 80 to 100,000 feet was probably their capability back in those days. But he did have contact about 3 different times, and he'd lose it. But these objects played around there for the remainder of my shift, and as long as about daylight, it started getting daylight. They started getting higher and higher and higher in the atmosphere, up in the air. And by the time it was light enough that you wouldn't see the rest of the stars, they were gone too. They were just like went away like a star, and they just disappeared into the atmosphere. I know a lot of things this was not. I know it was not a helicopter. I know it was not an airplane. I know it was not a balloon, a weather balloon or any other type of balloon. And I know it was no known aircraft, flying object that we know of today, or at that time. And it wasn't a laser show. It wasn't anything like that. But they could move real fast. They could move from the east. They could be to the east of my field, and in just a short period of time, they could be to the west. They could probably go 30, 40 miles in time you could snap your fingers twice. I mean, just fast. And they could rise, just go straight up. They could do that. Just seemed like instantaneous fast. At some points in time when they would set and just sit for a long period of time, and then they would move. And then it seemed like those 3 individual ones, the smaller 3 individual ones, they done a lot more movement than the other one. The original one didn't move all that much. It moved finally after a couple of hours or so. It moved a little bit from the east down to a little bit toward the south, and moved back toward the east a little bit again, and like that. But it didn't make any sudden fast movements until they tried to run an intercept on it, and then it went straight up. And then there was the 3 that was flying around individually. They would dart north to south, east to west, and they're the ones that really went fast, and they were the ones that were actually nearer to the surface, nearer to the ground. I'm judging, being an air traffic controller, I had to judge altitude a lot, because and like my traffic pattern altitude for a jet aircraft there was like 2,000 feet, and there was points where they were below what would be my traffic pattern altitude. So there were times that they were below 2,000 feet. There were other times that they were a lot higher than that, and I know that they were getting some of the radar cuts on them, height finder cuts, anywhere from 4 to 10, 11,000 feet. So that's pretty low to the surface.